Couple of things. First is, we have a packed audience and we're not going to do like standing up and asking questions. Instead, what we've done is we've given all of y'all notepads and pencils or pens. So if you have questions for Devdutt beforehand, if you have questions that arise during, or if you have any that come after, please write them. Write them big, not in like small mosquito writing. Write them nicely and big so that we can read them. And we'll collect your questions. We'll look at all your questions together and then we'll answer them, together at the end of it, just in the interest of time and because many people have similar questions. That's number one. Number two is, there are books outside that Aleph has very kindly provided. So if you want to buy them after the talk and get them signed, Devdutt has happily agreed to sit outside and sign and inscribe as many books as we give him. So please take advantage of that. So after the talk, you can buy the books outside and get them signed. And thirdly, which is most importantly, is what I said earlier, for those who came earlier, is what we try and do by having everyone here at Godrej come together through these events is really, one bit of it is knowledge dissemination, but the other bit is creating these magical connections. So if you're here with a friend, please lean over and talk to the person next to you whom you don't know. We'd really like it if you go away from this event, and actually from anything we do, with one new connection, one new idea, some sense of wonder that the world is this incredible place, and it often can just happen by talking to the person next to you. So we're going to start in about 2-3 minutes, but maybe you can, I urge you to use these 2 or 3 minutes, talk to the person next to you. If the person next to you don't find cute, talk to the person behind you, in front of you. But use this opportunity well, and we'll start in about 2 or 3 minutes. Thanks. Finally going to start, for all of those who are on social media, and because these days if you're not on Facebook or Twitter, you don't exist. You can tweet that you're here. For all those people who are stuck in traffic. It's amazing how everyone's on time, but someone's stuck in traffic. Tell them we're starting, you're missing it. We're starting finally. You can tweet that, Facebook that. We love it when people take their cell phones out at our events because we believe they're not taking it to take calls, which actually is not a good idea, but to take pictures and tweet and Facebook it. So please whip your cell phones out and tweet and Facebook furiously. You can tag us if you want at India Culture Lab or visit our website, which will come up soon enough. It's a historic event on several levels, and I'm a drama queen, so I like making things very grand. But one of the reasons it's a historic event is that it's the first combined Change Talk, Godrej India Culture Lab event that we're having. For the past few years, we at the larger Godrej group have been trying in multiple ways to create a culture of knowledge, to create a culture of insights. We're trying very hard to make our beautiful, verdant, vivacious Viva Vikhroli campus into a center, yeah, like alliteration, no, into this center for, now I'm thinking of, more V's to connect with it. Into the center for ideas, not just for Vikhroli or Powai or whatever, but really for the whole city of Bombay and hopefully for India over the next couple of years. We've been doing, incredible change talks at Godrej and Boys, almost one every month. We've been doing Friday Fundas regularly in a more intimate setting in the auditorium on, inside gate number 2. And, when we had a speaker like Devdutt, for whom there was such incredible enthusiasm, we said, why don't we get together and create this collaborative event? It's the first of what we hope will be many more collaborative events within the larger Godrej group. But, for making this happen, I want to thank Anil Verma and Nalini, wherever you guys are, raise your hand. Thank you very much. And also the whole team at the Godrej India Culture Lab, you know where you are. To actually make this happen, I want to start off by introducing Devdutt, which is, he's one of the people for whom this cliche is really true. He needs no introduction. The fact that you all are here is proof of that. Over the past few years, we've grown up, reading him, he's written 25 books. He's made mythology really cool and popular. We've grown up watching him on TV. There have been more than 8 lakh people who've watched his TED Talk in India and all over the world. It's been my privilege to have known him for a little longer. I've known him first as a friend, and then as a mentor, and finally as a writer. I'm actually very glad that you are here, David and Charmaine, because I met Devdutt first at your home. And the first time I met him, I was captivated and mesmerized because he was part of this normal conversation. And I think David said, Devdutt, tell us a story. And just like that, a story flowed out of him, and it was magic. It was a story on Shiva, and it really, it was mesmerizing. And for the next 20 minutes, nobody spoke. We were entranced listening to him. So I had the privilege of knowing him first as a mesmerizing storyteller, then as a friend. And it's really, I've had the privilege of following him as he's, as he's taken something that has been really his passion and make it into, and share it with the whole world through a variety of things, right? Through his role, certainly as Chief Belief Officer, which is an interesting title by itself, but through all these various things that he does in really taking mythology, which is something he loves, to the people. So Devdutt, it's a pleasure, it's a privilege, it's an honor having you here. Thank you for being part of our Godrej family, and we hope you will continue. So for our format, we're going to do this in a question and answer format. I'm going to ask him some questions. He's going to answer. At some point, we'll have things like we'll ask him to burst into an item number, read, and so on. You all can ask for all of that on your pens and paper. So be creative, because you don't have to write your names. You can ask Devdutt whatever you want. But my first question to you, Devdutt, is about this thing of belief.
Yep.
Your whole life has, whether it's in your role, whether it's in your talk, your TED Talk itself, which was the Western versus Eastern beliefs, whether it's even in your belief that, business can be looked at through this lens of mythology. So my first question to you is, what is this thing of belief? Can you unpack this word? Why does it mean so much to you? And can you, tell me about why belief? And it could have been any other word.
Belief has a very simple definition.
Yeah.
It is subjective truth.
Yeah.
So it's your truth and my truth. You see, we live in this world where I noticed that we want to be objective, we want to be rational, we want to be logical. I think this place here, I think if people want to sit here, they can.
People at the back, please come on in. We have space. You can come in, you can sit on the floor. Please come in.
Okay.
Yeah, there's lots of place here in the front, please. Yeah.
Okay. So, sorry for that. So, subjective truth. Subjective truth is your truth and my truth. And everything that I kept reading kept talking about objective truth, rational truth. And when you start, over time I realized that it comes from the scientific revolution. We are constantly speaking of the truth. Yeah. And in conversations, really three truths exist. Your truth, my truth, and this strange thing called the truth. And somewhere along the line, I am being told that my truth doesn't matter, your truth doesn't matter, the truth matters. In a way, it's invalidating people and their imaginations of what is true. And I think it also invalidates humanity, because humans are humans because we imagine. Kalpana Shakti, the ability to imagine, is what makes us human. And when you deny that, it's a very dark space. It's a problem space for me, to use that famous word, problematic. Yeah. But that's where I came from. So the word belief, in fact, when I was writing the book, belief became a very difficult, because I understood belief in a particular way, but I realized that when I used the word belief, everybody heard a different thing. So for some people, when you use the word belief, they think it's some religious concept. That's the first thing that comes into mind. So I remember the early days in Future Group, people assumed I was some kind of a pastor or a guruji. One person interviewed me and they came, it was a cabin with a laptop. They said, no, you don't quite look like a chief belief officer. So I said, how should he look? How many do you know? So the assumptions, presumptions, religious belief. People don't realize that belief can be religious or non-religious. It can be secular. Secularism is also a belief. Human rights is a belief. All democracy is a belief. So belief is what guides our life. And it's just that the fact that we have to, it sounds exotic because it doesn't come from standard textbooks of the West.
So tell us about that, because we've had these conversations before. So tell us, I want to probe a little bit more about that, and also, why you chose that for your title at the Future Group.
Well, the reason for the title was very simple. We wanted to create a designation that gets me invited to conferences. So that was the primary objective, and you can see it's successful, right? But so there's no job. It's just to provoke people to think. The whole idea is, people don't realize the most powerful element in business is imagination. It's the most powerful resource that you have. But somewhere we have got this template mindset of copy-paste. We don't have a design mindset. It's funny, it's intuitive to us, but somewhere it's not part of our perhaps education system, it's not part of our day-to-day life, that we focus on mimicry. We focus on what has been done before, take templates. But the whole idea was to provoke thinking. And Kishorji was thinking about these ideas before I met him. He was talking about you have to destroy things in order to create things. Or he would say things like storytelling is the way to go ahead. And intuitively, being an Indian businessman, he said, whatever I'm reading or seeing in the Western concepts, and in India, perhaps it may not work. And I would hear the consultant say, oh, every Indian says that, and every Chinese says that, and that's not true. There is a way of doing it. There are best practices to be followed. And then he met me, and in fact, the first presentation which I made for him was on Bollywood. And I made Bollywood posters, and I had made posters of all the Filmfare Awards over the last 50 years and all the Oscar Awards over the last 50 years. And I was patterning it for him. I was saying, see this, see this, see this, see this, what's happening. And I was just going on a trip. And he liked that. He said, I've been trying to explain to people this for a long time. So that's when the whole thing started. He said, join me. Then I said, but I have to tell people a designation is required. And he said, like, designations don't matter. I said, no, it doesn't matter to you, but it matters to the world at large. So then we said, designation mazedar hona chahiye.
And that's what.
So in a way, it was a tongue-in-cheek. It was just to make fun of this whole CXO business and CIO and CBO and CEO. And so we said, chalo, sab dal dete hain iske andar. Let's provoke people to ask the role of belief in business.
That designation also has given you, over the past few years, a chance to really observe business from the inside. What earlier used to do as a consultant, used to look at it from the outside. Here, in a sense, you're...
See, I have been a vendor in my life. I've been a sales guy, marketing, training, business process re-engineering. I have been part of mergers and acquisitions. I have a life before I became a chief belief officer. And then you became an outsider, so you became a consultant, which gives you a very different perspective of business. You see business very, very differently. And all this while this is happening, there's a parallel stream of mythology in my life, my free time. The time which I spent writing books on, and initially the books were purely fun. It was just to put things together, explain to people stories that they'd never heard before. I felt Machitra Katha and all, but while very good, but very limited in scope. And there was so much more. And I was just excited by the variety out there. So I just put them together. And I would be surprised because they were so easily accessible. They're not difficult, but people would be surprised. Oh my God. I said, no, it's easily accessible. The books are there in the shops and it's not difficult. But I realized that nobody had put them together, packaged them well. And then it was much later, I started seeing patterns. The pattern of management, the pattern of business, and the pattern of these stories. And I started seeing, okay, all these business practices are patterned to stories that I hear from Greek mythology or from biblical mythology. They don't make sense when I'm applying them to Indian mythology. So I would have people walking up to me and saying, a lot of advertising people had heard the word archetype. And they would keep saying, what is the Indian archetype? And I said, no, archetype as a concept which comes from Jung is based on these assumptions. These assumptions don't hold true in India, and therefore archetype doesn't make sense. And people would look at me and say, how can you say such a statement? How can Jung be wrong? I said, Jung can be wrong. Not because of any other reason, but his worldview is only that much.
His context was different.
It's different. He belongs to a different era. At a simple level, we use today words so easily like postmodern. We use words like gaze, construct, ways of seeing. These are 1970, post-1970. Jung belongs to pre-1950 era. So he used the vocabulary he was familiar with. When he came to India, he got so scared, he didn't go to meet Ramana Maharshi because he got, I think, a bout of diarrhea. He was in the hospital in Calcutta. But that's what I've heard. I've not done much research on him. So he puts together a framework which is very useful, but the idea that that is not the answer to all of life storytelling is something that people find, again, surprising, that how can it be? The truth kya hai? And I kept saying, no, that is his truth. That's not the truth. It's his truth.
So tell us about your truth. So tell us we must read the book, but what is this business? Why is it a sutra? What is Business Sutra? And is it like Kama Sutra in any way? Is there? I mean, it's very intriguing, the title. So, you read it. There's this interesting. Okay. So, can you tell us a little bit about it?
Come here now. Kama Sutra, indeed.
Because first I read it, I was like, my God, this is the next Kama Sutra. But then, of course, then I read it. But the Business Sutra also has pictures, like Kama Sutra, which Devdutt has made himself.
Just remember, it's so funny that, he thinks of Kama Sutra, not Yoga Sutra.
I think of Kama Sutra, yes. But those who come regularly know me now, a little bit.
So you reveal yourself, Parmesh. But
my life is an open Facebook.
No, but let's where does it come from? Let's look at the word sutra. Sutra, there are two broad meanings to it. One means a thread that you string flowers into it to create a garland. So think of, you have stars, in the sky. But when you join the stars together, when you join the dots, it creates a constellation. When you create a constellation, suddenly the sky becomes meaningful, because you can divide the sky into the zodiac, the 12 zodiacs, the 27 nakshatras, and once you do that, you can measure time, you can understand seasons, you can do predictions, all based on joining the dots. So at one level, sutra means joining the dots to create constellations. Dots are natural, stars are natural, constellations are man-made. So Business Sutra is my constellation of business, the way I see business. So that's one meaning. The second meaning of sutra is an aphorism, a terse statement. One statement which is, it's like a seed, that when you plant in soil, it grows. Which soil is this I'm talking about? It is the soil of the human mind. So I'm giving you seeds, plant it in your soil, it will grow, it will transform, it will turn into a fruit, a flower of your choice. So it's not that the narrative structure is that you contribute to the creation. So the reader, it is not a one-way traffic between the writer and the reader, but it's a co-creation where I'm giving and you are taking, you're receiving, you're transforming, and that is what the sutra word means. So both these words came from there. And of course the third reason was also, we wanted to stir people. People knew of Kama Sutra, they knew of Yoga Sutra, so I said Business Sutra. So that's where it came from. That was the more commercial angle to it. So there was a commercial angle.
So what is this? Give us some of these stir statements, or read them out from the book, or give us some.
Okay, so it begins with the statement that says, human hunger is unique. So that's a sutra. कि आदमी का जो भूख होता है वो बहुत अलग होता है. Now what does it mean? So I think I have a slide which will explain this. So look at this. Minerals do not consume or resist being consumed. So what is the difference between an organic and an inorganic life form? The difference between an organic and an inorganic life form is an organic life form has hunger. It craves for food. A plant craves for sunlight, minerals, water. It craves it. That's its hunger. So plants go towards sunlight. Plants go towards water, towards nutrients. They fight. If you look at plants carefully, they will not share sunlight. They will not share water. We don't see the violence in the vegetation world, but it's there. They will fight each other. The banyan tree won't let anything grow under it. So that's life. Then come the animal kingdom, another form of hunger. Now the animal runs towards a pasture, jahan khana milega, or predator. So hunger is still there, but now the hunger is taking a different shape. Not only do I consume, but now I will consume another living creature. And that's the plant which cannot run away. The plant cannot run when it is being consumed. Animals can run away if somebody tries to consume them. So suddenly you have prey and predator. A new relationship has emerged. Then comes the human being. And then the hunger transforms dramatically. Because now you have imagination, kalpana. The ability to imagine, and my hunger is imagined hunger. It's not just पेट भरने के लिए. That's not enough. My hunger is कल को खाना मिलेगा, परसों खाना मिलेगा, 10 साल बाद खाना मिलेगा, मेरे बच्चों को खाना मिलेगा, 7 पुश्तों को खाना मिलेगा. My hunger now is infinite, अनंत है. It never ends. Because I'm constantly consuming. I'll consume and I'll consume, and so that's the first sutra. If you don't understand this, you won't understand business. किसका भूख मिटा रहे हो, कितना भूख मिटा रहे हो, शेयर होल्डर का भूख क्या है, एम्प्लॉय का भूख क्या है, कंज्यूमर का भूख क्या है, वेंडर का भूख क्या है. So unless I understand hunger, how do I know what food to produce? So that's the first step. That's one sutra, but imagine it bursts into a whole bunch of ideas. So that's one sutra. So it's full of these sutras. There are over 100 to make you understand. So if I want to explain marketing to someone, what is marketing? It is inducing hunger in the market. Hunger that either you are not aware of, and I make you aware of a hunger which is latent inside you, or introduce a new hunger. So तुम्हारे पास Gucci bag नहीं है, तुम्हारी औकात क्या है? तो एप्पल के दुकान में जाओ तो एक एप्पल होगा, तो ओनली वन, नो वैरायटी. औकात है तो खरीद लो. एंड द हंगर इज बिल्ट. एक दिन मेरे पास एप्पल होगा और गुची बैग होगी, शायद 2, फिर वॉक इन क्लोजेट होगा. Hunger has been created, and because I have imagination, it transforms into so many different things. And this is necessary to understand if you want to understand business. And it works at so many different levels. But you need to understand this one sutra, one seed that makes you, just provokes, agitates, makes you think, you wonder, you mull. You read that page, and ideally you should mull over it, chew it, enjoy it. Because kuch hoga, something nice.
I like how you write, because, you know, having read Devdutt's work for so many years, it's been this thing. But in this book, I think that sense of humor, that playfulness that was maybe a small stream has become a full river in this. Because as you were saying, you were chew. There's a bit where you say, you know, this book is like cud, you're a cow, chew it the way you want, someday milk will come. And the lightness with which you write that, the sense of humor, even towards the end, you have how not to read this book, which is hilarious, which I think should kind of be like almost like a Facebook meme. I want to talk about this lightness, this, and does it come from a lifetime of wisdom that now you can afford to be funny?
No,
because it's wonderful. It reads funnily and yet so deeply. You have, I mean, have you done that intentionally?
You use the word meme.
Yeah.
So let's look at a meme which is there in management.
Yeah.
The memes which there are in management, look at the language. Win, lose, competition, rival, get market share, take a market share, grab a market share. The language embedded in it is a violence. Get him. It's the whole notion is grab him. So it is the whole notion of rana-bhoomi hai. It's a battlefield. And I kept hearing this word because I worked with sales teams, and the sense of stress over there of will I get the number, will I achieve the target, will I complete the task, During appraisals, I would see war happening.
But even the euphemism, so many people call their internal things like war rooms.
War rooms. Look at the word war. I asked somebody, Hindi mein strategy ka shabd bataiye, rananiti. I mean, that's the word. Yeah. That's the word. Strategy is, and then you realize the history of management comes from the Roman army.
Yeah. So
the whole notion of grab, capture, colonize, control, I was not happy with this language. Ye rana-bhoomi hai. And I said, wait, is this the only way to do business? And everybody kept saying this is the only way. The more I read, and then a very interesting concept in India is, स्वर्ग में राजा होता है जिसका नाम है इंद्र. And Indra is the king of heaven. He has everything he wants. But he is insecure. He is afraid कि लक्ष्मी मेरे हाथ से चली जाएगी. तो लक्ष्मी भाग जाएगी, लेकिन लक्ष्मी हमेशा विष्णु के तरफ भागती है. So Indra chases Lakshmi and Lakshmi chases Vishnu. Indra is always in rana-bhoomi. Devasur Sangram, war, fighting to grab Lakshmi. Vishnu is always his ranga-bhoomi, playground, Rasa Leela, sitting on this beautiful boat which is cradled by the ocean, waves, jhula, everything is fun, Leela. And Lakshmi comes towards him. So I said, business can be ranga-bhoomi. And then you hear people talking about words like happiness, and everything has to be quantified. So you have happiness index. And I'm like, everything has to be a number, isn't it? Anant ko hum ant kar denge. Because ank dekh ke aap anant ko ant kar doge.
So linked to that, I was just wondering if these things that we talk about in so many companies, whether it's CSR, whether it's sustainability, whether it's, a lot of companies now talk about these things. Are these also, in your mind, are these Western constructs, or are they, is there something Indian about them?
Well, I don't think they're Indian at all, step one. Let's be very clear about it. These concepts emerge from Europe and America, mostly America. So that, there is no doubt. MBA as a concept comes from Harvard. It doesn't come from India. It doesn't come from China. It doesn't come from Australia. It doesn't come from Africa. It certainly doesn't come from Antarctica. But it does come from America. So let's get that clear. Who are the people writing these books? Mostly white, mostly men. Mostly people, some wise enough, like a Peter Drucker, who says that I write from my experience. There is much more to experience in the world, and therefore my writing will keep changing. So that's a pure scientist talking. That's a pure scientist talking, who's always aware that my knowledge is limited. But that's a very small percentile. Larger group is that this is reality. Yahi sach hai. When it comes from the West, it is true. So that's a different school, but that's a different mindset. So the notion is what distinguishes the West from the rest of the world, and it's not an either or, it's a way of looking at life, is the obsession with objective truth, which is the chapter 2 of my book. This obsession with the truth, truth with a capital T. And usually my truth is the truth and your truth is rubbish. That's the conversation. So we will come and tell you how to be ethical. We will come and tell you, because you see, you all are an entitled society. We'll tell you how to do corporate social responsibility. This paternalistic, patronizing attitude is a little interesting, to say the least. I think people have matured. China certainly has matured. They won't listen to this. India is maturing. We say it differently. And I think that's the conversations, and I meet so many people who are thinking like that in different works of art, who are saying that, there is an Indianness in thinking. I'm meeting child psychologists, anthropologists, sociologists, curators of museums, artists, art historians. There is a conversation happening that our knowledge is not complete, and objective truth is part of the pattern. There are many more truths out there in the world, and this book is an attempt to present one more truth.
So you spoke about Indianness, and that's something I wanted to ask you, particularly because there are so many, we have people from Gurukul here, which are the young MBAs who are joining Godrej this year. We have a lot of students, we have a lot of young managers, and there's people from all over Bombay who've come, and who will be thinking these thoughts if they read a lot of your books, who will read this one, but the world in which they operate in. For example, in one part of your book, you talk about how you have to keep, Durga is essential. You have, you can't do away with Durga. Lakshmi is also essential, but eventually you have to move towards Saraswati, for example. Yeah. The challenge is in how can you want Saraswati while maintaining Durga? So that's one kind of young person, who are thinking of this. The second thing is they're working in a world in which systems are either Western, either they've gone to MBA school, or the organization they work in are organized according to a particular way. So within this matrix, and the third thing is jobs today, there's so much flow between other parts of the world and India. I mean, we can't just do Indian business in India alone.
Absolutely.
How do you balance these things? How do you, even if you want to do this Indian way of business, how do you balance this, especially when you're young and you have all these constraints?
So you have to ask yourself a fundamental question. What is business? Is it a set of targets? Is it a set of tasks? Is it a set of rules? Or is it a set of people? If you believe it is a set of people, then people's subjective truth matters. But if you believe that business is a set of targets, tasks, and rules, then people are just human resources to be used, to be domesticated, like you domesticate the sheep, the goat, the pig, the cow, the elephant, the human, who will do exactly what you tell them to do at the appropriate time, in the appropriate way, at the appropriate place. Now, if it's as is belief, so is behavior, so is business. So, bhav kya hai? What's the emotional undercurrent of your policy is the question. How do you see business? So it's very nice to use words like stakeholder value. Very nice. Uska matlab kya hai English mein? It means people matter. What is people? People means people who can imagine. And I can imagine anything. How much do you value my imagination? Or you say that no, your imagination doesn't matter. Numbers matter, especially when they favor me. Which basically means, yeah, stakeholder value is a word, but I don't believe in it. What I believe is, tum naukar ho, dimag mat lagao, systems follow karo. It is a very good way of doing business, but it is rana-bhoomi. It will never be ranga-bhoomi.
Are there companies that are doing ranga-bhoomi in today's world? Or playing in this?
We will never know, because it is subjective, no?
Yeah, but it's about intent.
See, the moment you ask for evidence, you are saying objective, prove it objectively. You have just now stepped out of the Indian way of business.
Okay. Okay, then tell me what is the Indian way. I might not know, but what I was very intrigued about is that your book is not about the Indian way. It's about the very Indian way.
Yes.
So tell me why it's the very Indian way.
See,
I want to get back into the very Indian way.
Okay. See, the Indian way is where you try to force fit a Western template into an Indian vocabulary.
Yeah.
So dharma becomes ethics. Without realizing that the word ethics comes from a very Greek concept of ethos. It comes from a Greek paradigm, the notion of hospitality, of being nice to strangers. But if you want to understand dharma, you have to understand the concept of karma. You cannot understand karma unless you appreciate rebirth, either literally or metaphorically, doesn't matter. You have to understand that it is embedded in a paradigm called karma. So any explanation of dharma without karma doesn't make sense, or it is an interesting new way, but it's not dharma. This people don't get it. So when you use the word ethics, for example, and say dharma, then you keep talking about right, wrong, good, bad, either or. This is not the Indian way.
It's not Indian, yeah.
The Indian way is cause, jo bhi karna hai karo, every cause has a consequence. There is nothing good. You do, it has a consequence. You don't do, it has a consequence. That's karma. It's not about right and wrong, because doing good, the assumption is if I do good, the results will be good. Who are you to decide it is good? सामने वाले को पूछो ना, तुमने खाना बनाया, I said, I have made a lovely porridge for you. And the person says, oh God, it's so horrible. Who decides? What is the objective truth? Pakane wala ya khane wala? And this is where rebirth comes in. क्योंकि मेरे ब्रह्मांड में ये बहुत अच्छा है, लेकिन उसके ब्रह्मांड में अच्छा नहीं है.
You've also spoken about gods who break the rules and villains who.
So that's where the very Indian comes in. The very Indian acknowledges, accepts, and goes into this notion of rebirth, which is the uniquely Indian concept. It exists only in the subcontinent. It spread to China via Buddhism. But what exists in Buddhism is a very different form of Buddhism, a very Chinese version of Buddhism. It's very tailored to that space. So when you use words like, I've seen this all over the place. People use it so casually. Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, creator, sustainer, destroyer. And I'm like, nay. That's not what it means. So I had to put the word very only to tell ki, don't force fit it into a template. Go organically into it. And it is difficult because we have been conditioned and trained, and our education system is based on a particular model. So a child grows up with that education system. He's exposed to Western ideas. So suddenly when somebody says, nahi, dharma doesn't mean ethics, it comes as a rude shock. And rebirth is not a scientific idea. We are a scientific people. So, karma we will sidestep. So I always look at the index page of many writers. And I see in the index how many times do they refer to rebirth and karma. How do they understand words? What is their definition of the word? And that's where this whole notion of Indian and very Indian. Of course, it was also trying to be cheeky. It gets people to pick up the book and read. So there is a commercial angle to it, but there's also a philosophical angle to it.
Which is very important.
Lakshmi ke bina thodi na duniya chalega.
Correct. So linked to something you said earlier about cause and consequence, I want to ask you, your last chapter.
Yeah.
And, we'll skip through the middle because really you should be reading this book. It's quite extraordinary. I read the book thinking it's a business book. By the time I finished the book, I realized it's almost like an operating system for life. And your last chapter where you talk about Yama's balance sheet, for example, is very, it was really moving because, if I've been doing therapy, I've been talking to other people, a lot of it is about taking charge, realizing that actions have consequences, realizing that, ultimately it's exactly what you said, that it's at the end of it, you are in charge and you have to, what you account for is really that. So I wanted to ask you about that sense of accountability in business and also how you link maybe your work to other fields, because I was seeing linkages to psychology, to psychiatry, to in the stories that you narrate to anthropology. I wonder if you can just talk about this Yama's balance sheet concept and also about these links.
See, I'll show you an image. So, yeah, look at this. This is the image it came from. That's a crow and that's a parrot. And you see, there is a ritual when people die in India. They do what is called a shraddh. And you take rice balls and you offer it to crows. One part of this is an elaborate ritual. And the crow makes a very strange sound. It says ka, ka, ka. Ka is really, it's ka. It's the ka sound. So the name for this crow is Kaka Bhusandi. That's the name given to it. And it basically, ka is the first consonant in Devanagari. So ka, kha, ga, gha, the first guttural sound. It's the sound of interrogation. Kyun, kab, kaise, kahan, kim in Sanskrit. Why? Now I was looking at this ritual and I said, somebody choreographed this ritual. It's a very clever ritual which at the moment of death, the living are offering food. Remember we talked about hunger. You're offering food to the crow and the crow is saying, why? Now the crow doesn't understand it, but humans do. We attribute meaning to a sound. So sound suddenly becomes, why do you think? Why? What is the purpose of life? So why do you do business? So I remember this conversation I had a very early days in Future Group. We were talking about leadership, leadership, leadership. So I asked, why do you want to be a leader? Why do you want to be a leader? And somehow that question was not being answered. Everybody was giving me these very nice answers. I said, नहीं, बनना क्यों है leader? राजा क्यों बनना है? Why are you doing it? And that's where belief emerged, because subjective truth is an expression of what you believe in. Your notion of life. Why am I doing what I am doing? Business goal or goal orientation is about what I have to do. Behavior is about how do I do it. So target orientation, task orientation. But why do I do it? Why do I do it? That was the question which nobody is asking. So why do we need a business? Why do I need social? And there will be this answer is, I would ask people, why do you do business? पैसे बनाने के लिए. Simple answer. So suddenly I realized it is like a loop. Why do you do business? I am doing business. The what becomes the why. I said, what is an outcome? It can't be the why. Beej kya hai, phal kya hai? What is the seed? What is the fruit? And that's, I was not happy with this answer. Why do you want to make money? Money to banana hai. And suddenly I realized a parrot. They were parroting. They were parroting. This is mimicry. The meme that you mimic, because everybody is saying paisa to banana hai. But you have not really thought about it. You have not gone and asked fundamental, paisa kyun? Kis bhook ko hum mita rahe hain? What are you trying to achieve? For whose? For example, this was the image that, everybody talks about vision statement of the company. But whose vision statement is it? And I'm alluding to the pyramid, which is the whole notion of slavery in Egypt, from where the prophet releases you and takes you to the promised land. What we forget in the biblical narrative is everybody is following their dream. Everybody wants to get out. But in the corporate structure, they've taken this story and twisted it beautifully and said, my vision is your vision. It's the vision. So you are not allowed to have a vision. It's my vision. You will align to my vision, and that's called compliance. And I'll have audit committees who will check whether you are giving value to whose vision. My vision, your vision, or the vision, which is the target. And these were, of course, codes that I was reading into it. Because I would see frustration in offices, anger in offices. I would say, but haven't you signed a contract? Haven't you agreed that you will earn 20,000 rupees, you have to do these tasks? Then why are you upset? You are doing the task, they're paying you money. No, but I deserve more. वहाँ तो 25,000 देते हैं. Imagination at work. ऐसे तेरा औकात क्या है? तेरा मूल्य क्या है? Now what is मूल्य? Value. Are you worth 20,000 or 15,000? Now I imagine myself to be worth 30,000. So my imagination creates a bar, and then the reality tells me it's 20,000. Now what is depression? I'm worth 30,000, and the reality says the mathematics, the bell curve of the company, objective truth tells me I'm worth only 20,000. Whose truth is the truth? And these are the questions. Why am I working? I'm working so that I feel valued. I think my value is 30,000. My boss says it's 20. I don't feel valued. मुझे नहीं रहना है यहाँ पे. I find myself trapped in Egypt once more. The prophet turned out to be the Pharaoh. And that's the shocking idea that I thought when you joined the company, everybody told me, ये बहुत सुनहरा दिन होगा, हरियाली होगी, I will be dancing and singing like a butterfly. Those were the corporate videos I was shown. And then the horror emerged. बैल हाँकने मैं वो बैल हूँ. दर्द की आवाज सुनी.
But as you write, at the end of the day, the balance sheet is your own,
and
right? So that's the thing.
So,
how do you?
Sorry. So what
I'm
is?
saying you come back, and ultimately you have to account for your own balance sheet.
And then you have to ask yourself, then I start asking myself, yajna kiska?
Yeah.
What is this whole thing I'm doing?
Yeah.
And that's where the concept comes from Yama's balance sheet, ki ye balance sheet is mine or theirs. And I ask myself at a more fundamental level, I was asking that, I do a job, so a poet creates poetry, writes poetry, right? Let's take that as a metaphor. Does the poetry create the poet, or does the poet create the poetry? Is the poetry the daughter or the mother? That's the question. Because I would look at, some of these ideas came not merely from the business world, but I also saw it from the arts. I would see classical musicians, artists. And I would meet some of them, and I would find some people who were that art had transformed them. They were such wonderful people. Their music would have transformed them. And I would also meet people, the more famous they became, the more successful they became bitter and shallow and insecure more and more. And I'm like, what has the job done to you? You have done the job. What has the job done to you? That's Yama's balance sheet. Every day when I go to work, what does it do to me? Does it make me a person who creates ranga-bhoomi around me? Or does it make a battle-scarred veteran of rana-bhoomi? And then you realize, who created the rana-bhoomi? You did. It doesn't exist outside your imagination. And ranga-bhoomi doesn't exist outside your imagination. And these are the conversations of introspection, of asking yourself these fundamental questions. Ki kyon kar rahe ho tum? The kaka bhusandi. And that was the whole chapter, because you begin with desire, which is Kama, the god of desire, hunger, the parrot, which is Kamadev's. And you end with the god of accounting. God of accounting is Yamaraj, god of death. Imagine, god of accountants, of course everybody will agree that accounting and Yamaraj have lots in common. You see, we forget that the last day of Diwali is called Yama Dvitiya. Bhai Dooj, Lakshmi ka bhai kaun hai? Yamaraj hai. Why? Because hisab kitab likhta hai. अगर हिसाब किताब नहीं रखोगे तो पैसा नहीं रहता है घर में. अपनी जिंदगी का हिसाब किताब किया, बैलेंस शीट कैसा है? How much debt, how much equity, profit, loss. It's all subjective. रंग पाया या रण में अटके हुए हो. So that's
I want to ask you that. I want to ask you why you write. And it's linked to, not this book, but it's linked to a bit in The Pregnant King. For all of those who've read Devdutt's, mythological books, I urge you to read The Pregnant King, which is his only novel. I think you should write more because it was very path-breaking in so many ways. And so there's a bunch of questions linked to that. One of which is, actually, answer why you write later. Actually, before that, I want to ask you how you deal with the kind of writing that you do, which in my mind is really transgressive in the way mythology has been written, has been imagined. You've been writing about, say, gender and sexuality. Say in Jaya, for example, the kind of interpretations you have of the Mahabharata are radical. In The Pregnant King, again, it's fiction, but you use elements from mythology to tell about, very, very, I would say, radical, transgressive. They are there, but you bring out these myths and you really articulate them. And the agenda seems to be very, very pro-woman, progressive, this liberal agenda. When we think of mythology, we tend to think of these conservative people who want to hold these texts. So my one question is, how do you deal with these people? Is there a backlash against your progressive reading of mythology? How do you tangle with them at all?
See, who decides what a text is? Is a text progressive or is the interpreter progressive? Yeah. Is a text conservative or is the interpreter conservative? As is belief, so is behavior, so is business. So more often than not, and this is something I discovered when I studied history. I gave my UPSC exams, I was in two minds about career and things were going wrong. So my mother said, UPSC exam de do. We are Odiyas, we just do government servants. So you have to do that. So I gave it and I studied, because that is medical science, now it is a subject. I studied history and it was a major event for me because I was frustrated. I put all my frustration into my studies and I started studying history. Yeah. And I observed when Indian authors wrote Indian history, they wrote something different. When European writers wrote Indian history, they wrote something very different. So 1857, mutiny, uprising. And when you read the data, you realize the constellation can be created in so many different ways. I can read it in so many different ways. And that's when you realize, are the text conservative or is the writer conservative, the interpreter? So it's a question of who you are. And reader, now, as I said, the reader is a participant. So that was the first point. I would always look, because the scriptures said such powerful things. You are telling a story of a God who is half a woman. Data, that's data, not even interpretation. Visually, you're showing a God who is half a woman. Now, is this transgressive? Did the person doing it was transgressing, or are we attributing that thing to him? Yeah. He did it because that's what he perhaps saw and intuitively created that artwork. And somebody may have seen it as conservative, somebody will see it as progressive, but it's just data. So I saw it as data. When you read the Upanishads and when you read the Vedanta, Tantra, everywhere, there's one philosophy which is very powerful. In India, and that's very powerful in India, they will say, कुछ चीजें सगुण होते हैं, कुछ चीजें निर्गुण होते हैं. So business, for example, sagun means tangible, measurable. Yeah. Business is tangible, measurable, sagun. Behavior is tangible, measurable, saguna. Belief is not tangible, is not measurable, it is nirgun, which means it has no form. What is more important? Sagun or nirgun, a thing or a thought. So thing, when you talk gender, is a thing. Thought is very different. And I realize the culture values nirguna. Values, look at the word for, the most important word when you read, go deep into scholarship is mimamsa, inquiry, into nirguna. They'll always say nirguna dekho, nirguna dekho, nirguna dekho. Then gender is not important. Mind is important. तुम्हारा दिल कैसा है? दिल साफ है? दिमाग कैसा है? Is it inclusive? ब्रह्मांड को तुम अंदर लेते हो, ब्रह्मांड को बाहर रखते हो. So that is important. What form you take. So there is a story of a priest, of a great acharya. He walks and he gives this great lecture, सब माया है, सब माया है, मन ही important है, शरीर को value मत करो, देह, आत्मा is important, देह is not important. When he gets up from his seat and he's walking, a chandal, a low caste man stands in front of him, and the teacher and his students say, हट गंदा. तो he said, किसको हटाऊं, शरीर को या आत्मा को? Dialogue तो बढ़ा दिया. Nirgun, nirgun, nirgun. But when it came to real life, somehow sagun became important.
And that was my question. In today's world, a lot of what you see, a lot of
because sagun is measurable. Let's go back. Scientific revolution, the whole notion of measurability. You can measure the tangible. Yeah. Therefore, reality is measurable. So we value gender over the mind of the person embodied in the gender. So that's what has happened. So the very Indian approach goes beyond forms, beyond thought, beyond things, and looks at thought, which is the Indian way. Bhav ko dekho, bhav has no gender. Kis bhav se khana parosa hai? Kis bhav se khana banaya hai? Can I measure it? No. But the moment you start measuring, because it is manageable, you will create a society which is contained in a daira. You will create categories, boxes, gender boxes. You will not be able to be fluid. Look at the word for Saraswati or wisdom. Saras means that which is fluid, that which flows. Look at the concept of Brahmana, which is Brah means expansion, of mana, mind. When the mind expands, you realize divinity. Look at these concepts. They cannot, are they transgressive or conservative? Or just concepts?
They're just what they are.
They are what they are. We make it transgressive. We make it high, low, great, ancient, modern. They just are concepts which somebody saw and said, wow, it makes me so happy, I want to share it with the world. But it is the human nature to evaluate it and say, is it better, is it worse, is it Eastern, is it Western? The person saying the word Brahmana has no concept of whether it's East, West, India, Africa, it doesn't matter. The same concept may have come in Africa, but they must have used a different word. Bhav ko dekho. Bhav mein shabd nahi hote. भावार्थ को देखो, शब्दार्थ को मत देखो. These are the words which every Indian understands, which means, but scholarship and academia is about shabdarth, references, testimonials, words, measurement. I want evidence. In a country where the moment you worship God, at the end of doing a Satyanarayan Puja, what do? You throw everything in the sea. So evidence kahan hai? Did you perform or did you not perform? There is no evidence. I've destroyed it. So then no, you're lying. This is all mythology. Arey, but मैंने किया. Photograph, prove it. But first thing I do is गणपति को मैंने विसर्जन किया, दुर्गा का विसर्जन किया, सबको पानी में डाला. Because bhav is important, sagun is not important. This, how do you explain to someone who says measurement is truth? Numbers are reality. The world of management. If I can't measure it, then something is wrong. So fundamental Indian ideas are dismissed. Exotic. ये लोग को कुछ समझ में नहीं आता है. शब्दार्थ is important.
Is that why you write? Because
and that is why I write. Because I think that, when you talk this language, I see everybody in India understanding. When I talk at so many levels, I talk in so many languages, and I see them connecting so rapidly.
Yeah.
And the moment I meet someone who is apparently intellectual, I say he can't get it. The problem किधर है? Concept में है तुम्हारे दिमाग में. Because you are not able to become Brahmana. You're not able to open your mind.
Yeah.
Allow new ideas to come. Because you have so many concepts in this world. So diversity will exist. And people say, is it still there? I just show them the US dollar bill. Multicultural society. But the US dollar bill has only one language, English. No, but they have so many people from different parts of the world, right? Made of so many immigrants. Why only English? And then I show the Indian rupee. 17 languages. The most dominant one is English. And we don't consider English a foreign language anymore. We are not speaking a foreign language, are we? But you will have to take TOEFL. And that's the thing. That tells you a lot. So who should teach whom diversity? Harvard का professor of diversity Indian है या American है? America can teach us efficiency. One language is always more efficient than 17 languages. But I think we should teach them diversity. और diversity के लिए भाव चाहिए, दिल होना चाहिए. 17 languages is not easy to manage. It's going to be a cacophony. It's going to be chaotic. It's going to be messy. It's going to be dirty. But साथ में रहेंगे. It's an unimaginable concept.
I think that's the magic of not just this book, but your entire body of work, where you appreciate the sense of plurality, the sense of ambiguity, and at the same time, you're seeing the patterns. You're saying it's chaotic, but you can observe these patterns and learn. It's very ambiguous, but
I'll tell you something.
Yeah.
From a mythological point of view, the word chaos comes from Greek mythology. It doesn't exist in Indian mythology.
So what would the
There is no concept. There is no chaos in nature. There is no chaos
Plural?
In nature.
Would we
You
say
ask any
plural?
physicist, you ask any biologist, you ask any scientist, they'll say there is Newton's law at work all the time. It is inertia, there's momentum, there's movement. There is no such thing as chaos. The Greeks use the word chaos to say that which is not under. And chaos in China is absence of human control. Very clearly defined. Luan. India mein, there is always order. There is natural order, there is social order. In social order, there are so many different types of societies. तो तुम्हारा एक संस्कृति है, उसका संस्कृति है, इसका संस्कृति है, लेकिन प्रकृति is organized and ordered. You are trying to improve on nature. So the concept of chaos doesn't exist. Kali is, or Kali as they say, is not chaos. She is order, natural order. Gauri, when she wears a sari, when she ties her hair, when she sits like a bride, is social order created through domestication. Whether it's voluntary domestication or involuntary domestication is your choice. Involuntary domestication is exploitation. Voluntary domestication is love. but there is order. So the word chaos, which is used so casually about India, is the coexistence of multiple orders. तुम्हें दिखाई नहीं देता, इसलिए it is not, because you believe in central control. We believe in peripheral control. Because it doesn't suit your template, it is not good, is it? क्या भाव क्या है ये? If it doesn't suit my template, it is wrong. Now that is ethical? Is that moral? शब्द क्या है इसके लिए कि मुझे समझ में नहीं आता तो गलत है. इससे संस्कृत में कहेंगे तामसिक प्रकृति. I'm incapable of understanding diversity and therefore diversity is wrong. Diversity is chaos. And that's the language, because diversity is chaotic to you, because diversity will be inefficient. Inefficiency is chaos. So in effect, you are saying nature is bad. And that's where the problem starts. Because I believe that, they genuinely believe India is chaotic. And therefore, I have to domesticate India. But Indians are saying, no, we are diverse. The road is not just for the car. It is for the four-wheeler, three-wheeler, two-wheeler, no-wheeler. गाय के लिए भी जगह है, हाथी के लिए भी जगह है, घोड़े के लिए भी जगह है, बैलगाड़ी के लिए जगह है, मर्सिडीज के लिए भी जगह है. एडजस्ट करते हैं थोड़ा. It's a different mindset. It's inefficient, completely inefficient. But it allows 17 languages on the rupee note.
I'm going to actually ask you, since the first time I saw you, you just spontaneously narrated a story. So I'm not going to ask you any more questions. I'm just going to ask you to, while we collect questions from the audience, if you all are ready with your chits, can you pass it forward to the first row and then I'll collect them. So in each line, pass it forward to the first row and then I'll collect all of them. While we do that, may I just request you to, whatever comes to your mind, one of your stories. It could be about mythology, it could be about anything else. But I just love how you tell stories.
Okay, this is a story that I've been telling now very recently, and it's something which touches me. You know, many times I realize the story is also about storytelling. What does the story, we have heard so many stories, but how do you tell a story makes a huge difference. So I'll tell you a story that you all know. It's not a complicated story. It's the story of Shabri. So Shabri ke bear. So I'm going to tell you the story and just go with the flow. Just let's hear it. Okay. So this is the scene. The scene is this, that, while we are doing that, look at this picture, because it's sort of, in a way, I'm connecting the story to this picture. It's okay, keep the lights on, it's fine. Yeah. So this is the story. It's the Ramayana. Sita has been kidnapped. Ram has no clue what has happened. The only data he has is that she has been taken in the southern direction. So he walks in the southern direction. He's walking, he doesn't eat, he doesn't drink, he doesn't sleep. He's covered with sweat and grime. His eyes are bloodshot. His brother Lakshman is following him. He's walking, refusing to rest. When suddenly at a particular point, a woman walks in front of him and says, "Stop." So Ram stops. He says, "Baitho." So Ram sits down. He says, "Khana khaoge? Mere paas kuch bear hain." So he nods his head, not sure what's happening. She picks up a bear, a berry, and she bites it and gives it to Ram. Khao. So Ram eats it. She takes the second berry, bites it, and she throws it on the ground. She takes the third berry, bites it and gives it to Lakshman. Lakshman looks at it and recoils in horror. He says, "Mannerless woman, झूठा खिलाओगी? पता है मैं कौन हूं? मैं अयोध्या का युवराज हूं. पता है ये कौन है? ये अयोध्या के राजा हैं. झूठा खिला रही हो? You have no manners. Your berry is contaminated with saliva. This is the way you treat guests?" She is horrified. And the woman doesn't understand what's happening, so she apologizes, sorry, 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 she's saying, I didn't know, I didn't mean. And then Ram is watching this and he says, Lakshman, darshan karo, look. What are you looking? Dekho. What did you see? What did I see? What did I see? I saw, we are two men covered with sweat, grime, with bloodshot eyes, carrying weapons in the middle of a jungle. Two men. How many women you think will walk in front of us, try to stop us? She has done that. She's a very brave woman. Step one. Second, why did she stop us? For her benefit or our benefit? For our benefit, to feed us. Not only is she a brave woman, she is also a very generous woman, a kind woman. And why is she biting the berry to feed us? So that we get the sweetest berry. So not only is she brave, not only she is generous, she is a good host. What did you see? You saw a woman without manners. Whose manners? Where did you learn these manners? In the palace. Has she been raised in the palace? No. Whose value system are you talking about? Your value system, not her value system. And how do you expect her to know that we are princes of Ayodhya? She lives in the jungle, she has no clue what these things are. You are using your value system to judge her. इसलिए तुम रहे लक्ष्मण और मैं बना राम. Ask ourselves, every day in our life there is a Shabri coming in front of us. What do we see? शब्दार्थ या भावार्थ? बेर को मत देखो, भाव को देखो. That is Indian tradition. Thank you.
I actually want you to read some of these questions. I don't, there's loads of questions. You want to just quickly go through some of them and choose the ones that you want to answer?
You decide whichever.
Then the first few. There's a bunch.
Okay.
Maybe you should just read the first 10 or 15, which are interesting.
Okay, I'll tell the questions, but I'll choose which one I want to answer. If that.
So maybe you can read out all of them.
I'll read all of them.
And then the ones that you want to answer, we'll choose.
What's the most important sutra for a leader of a team? The sutra that you read after reading 100 sutras. You see, the problem with sutras is that each one builds on the other. So you can't really jump a sutra. You can't jump it. Unfortunately, the book is a little tough. But I was trying to, for the first time, I normally try to simplify things. I have simplified it to the best of my abilities, but it is not an easy book to read. I don't know whether I'm guilty of, because it's sometimes it's difficult to explain because it's a pattern, and a pattern is spatial, and a book is linear in design. So it's very difficult to explain a spatial thing in a, sorry, I'm talking technical stuff, but it's a difficult book, and therefore I can't say this is good or that is good or this is one line answer. It is not so easy. Each one builds on the other. So, so what according to you is happiness and purpose of life? Happiness for me is very clearly defined. It's LSD. No, and LSD is not the chemical. It is not Ekta Kapoor's film. It's Lakshmi, Saraswati and Durga. Lakshmi is material growth. Saraswati is intellectual growth. Durga is emotional growth. So pet, dil, dimag. When all three grow, there is happiness. That's my definition of happiness. This is like 4 questions. So you have an amazing sketching skill. In fact, you talk with your sketches. They are too good and abstract. Where did you learn your sketching? No, I'm self-taught. This is not school. This is just my own stuff. I doodle a lot. So for me, I see my illustrations as diagrams. Remember, I come from a science background. So it is merely to explain a concept. So I don't see it as independent of my writing. In fact, I find it very difficult when I have to do art independent of my writing, because for me it's a diagram. You have to read what is in the next page and below that and the legend, because this is for me a diagram. It's explaining a concept. What is knowledge in the prism of subjective truth? Knowledge comes only in subjectivity. Before that, it's called data and information. When subjectivity comes in, it's called knowledge. That's a simple thing. And then when you're able to apply the subjective ideas into various contexts, it's called wisdom. So that's for those who, it's a common thing if you read data, information, knowledge. With knowledge, subjectivity comes in. Therefore, you cannot capture 100% knowledge ever. You can only capture information. It's very difficult to capture knowledge. And wisdom is very subtle. Because you may be an expert in physics, but you will be able to comment on philosophy because you're able to move from one category to the other. That's when wisdom has come in because you tattva gyan aata hai tab. How do you measure success? I talk about subjectivity and it's, measurement in Sanskrit, the word for measure comes, the sound maya. Ma means to measure. So anything which is seen through a measured lens, a measuring scale is maya. So management is maya. Anything that is measured, ki bada, chota, bada, sundar, asundar, anything which you measure, the moment you have comparison and contrast, it is maya. Because in nature, everything is perfect. Nature does not compare things. It gives everybody strength, weakness, opportunity, threat, now go, survive. Those who survive will survive. Nature doesn't like one or the other. It's humans who create evaluation parameters. That in Sanskrit is called maya. So measurement has to be seen very carefully. Is Indian mythology patriarchal or matriarchal? It depends on who is the interpreter. I always think that mythology is like a mirror. You see yourself. If you are patriarchal, you will see patriarchy. You're a dominating person, you will see domination in it. You're a person who doesn't believe domination is the answer to life, you don't see domination. So it's many times, it's a very interesting conversation between observer and observation. Who creates the observation? The observer creates the observation. The observation is no independent outside the observer. This is fundamental to Indian thought. So I see what I want to see. I create the mirage. The mirage doesn't exist. I create it. My presence creates it. And therefore words like patriarchy, matriarchy, how much ever people tell me, it is not objective reality. For me it is subjective reality. It will shift. Uska meaning itna complex hai. So many complexities are there that you can read it in so many different ways. When I start joining the dots, you can see somebody dominating another person. That is very clear. That's data. A is dominating B. What is the gender of A? Does it matter or domination matters? That's a different conversation. Is it good to dominate or is it bad to dominate? That's a question we have to ask. Is domination okay if A is of a particular gender? That's the question we have to ask. Can we be gender neutral? Is it possible? Brahmana. Is it possible to break free? Difficult. You'll say ideal world because realism, anything which is tragic is real. Anything which offers the possibility of happiness seems to be idealistic. So how to handle a cutthroat competition the Indian way? You see, the whole notion of competition, you have to ask, there are so many strategies at work over here. You can participate in the competition and become an Indra who chases Lakshmi, or you can be Vishnu who changes the rule of the game. And that's the whole idea. If you change the rules of the game, then you are always ahead of the curve. If you are at the bottom, if you are not changing the rules of the game, you'll always be losing. You don't have to follow someone else's game. And that's something that we don't realize. But for more details, please read the book. And, I think it'll be, should I just, because time, you tell me when to stop.
Can you take some more? I think so.
Yeah, so 10 minutes more. Sorry, I just want to, it's nice that you've, so Indra is Devraj, negative qualities, because you see, Indra ko Devon ka Raja bolte hain.
Why is Indra the, why is Indra the king? Why is Indra the
Dev, India, you see the problem is we think God, translation of God, English word, God has different meanings in different cultures. In Greek mythology, God means a deified hero. Someone, hero whom you love so much, like Sachin Tendulkar is God. That's Greek mythology at work. Yeah. That's a Greek paradigmic structure. The other is that God is an external agency which is judgmental. So it comes from a biblical paradigm. Now both these things exist in India. Both these concepts exist in India. But the idea of Deva specifically means that which has divine potential.
So we are all.
So Aham Brahmasmi, I have divine potential, Tattvamasi, so do you. So Deva Raj, Indra is someone who has not yet realized his divine potential. The one that has realized it is called Bhagavan. So Devata, Dev, sorry not Devata, Dev and Bhagwan are two different words, but in English we translate both of them as God. That creates confusion to people. For more details, myth is equal to mithya. So Penguin Publications, Rupa Publications won't like it.
And what is a Devdutt then? What is Devdutt?
Devdutt is a gift of God.
Oh.
It also means Buddha's evil cousin.
We'll take the former. We'll take the former.
It also means Arjun's conch shell. It also means Narad's lute. So take your pick. What is secular according to you? It's a category, and all categories confine. They don't allow you to grow. That's secularism for me. It's just another category, a new religion, which rejects God, which rejects notions of religiosity. But it's a new club. एक और category आ गया, एक और जमात आ गई, एक और डेरा लगा दिया. कुछ उसमें नया नहीं है, ऐसे चलते रहते हैं. What is important in family, in business? What is the importance of family in Business Sutra to a business owner? You see, you have to decide, यजमान आप हो. You have to decide why do you do business. अपने लिए कर रहे हो, family के लिए कर रहे हो, employees के लिए कर रहे हो, consumer के लिए कर रहे हो. You have to decide what matters to you in life. If you feel family is a burden and not the reason you're doing the yajna, then that's your story. That I have to do work-life balance. This categorization, this separation of work and life you have done. It doesn't exist in nature. प्रकृति में नहीं है. ये तुम्हारे दिमाग में है. संस्कृति में भी नहीं है. ये तुम्हारे दिमाग में है. You have created this divide. कि ये मेरा work है, ये मेरा life है. You have created this two worlds that you want to inhabit. You don't have to. It doesn't exist in objective reality. It's all in your mind. And it's how we decide how do you want to. This is one stakeholder. यहाँ पे घर में भी यज्ञ करना पड़ता है. घर में एक देवता है, ऑफिस में एक देवता है. यहाँ पे यज्ञ नहीं करूंगा तो खाना नहीं मिलेगा. यहाँ यज्ञ नहीं करूंगा तो सैलरी नहीं मिलेगी. Decide. So सैलरी होगा तो खाना मिलेगा. हाँ, होटल का खाना. लेकिन घर का प्यार से खाना चाहिए तो स्वाहा करो. With all ancient wisdom, what is our status today? Very American. If you're so smart, why aren't you rich? It's a very American answer. Because you have wisdom, you can handle the poverty. If you were not wise, we would be killing each other. We are 1.2, people forget something about India. We are 17% of the world's population with 4% of the annual wealth generated in the world. 4%. America is 4% of the world's population with 17% of the world's annual wealth. हम गरीब हैं. It's a mystery to the world that why there is no riots every day. It is because there is some Saraswati in this world. थोड़ा, ज़्यादा नहीं है. But we know how to adjust. We know how to adjust. थोड़ा जगह कम है. Resources are less, but we will make room for the new person who enters the train. The same train has been taking people for the last 20 years. Bombay's population has tripled, I think, in the last 20 years. Trains have not increased dramatically. People are still being traveling. Some people are dying. It's not the best railway system in the world, but still people say, andar aaja. It's not an easy, imagine they should be killing each other. There should be riots every day. If you travel in those inhuman cattle conditions, जानवरों के जैसे, because we are a tolerant, because गरीबी है. It's difficult. To build a road in India is difficult because when you build a road, there's a temple. Should we break the temple or build the road? आगे जाओगे तो दरगाह है. break the temple, break the road, dargah, or build the road. And then somebody will ask, road किसके लिए? आदमी के लिए है. किसके लिए है? और आदमी के लिए मंदिर चाहिए, दरगाह चाहिए. Go around it. America will say inefficient. China will say what nonsense. तोड़ दो. India में बोलेगा kindly adjust. Could you clarify how Jung's concept of archetype and dreaming in, oh no, this is a very long conversation, private consultation, I'll tell you my fees later. Isn't chaos part of nature according to some theory? Not really. Not according to the Indian perspective. Prakriti बहुत ही सुंदर है. तुम्हें पसंद नहीं आती तो तुम उसको काली कहते हो, भयानक. But Prakriti is perfect in itself. She doesn't need humanity. Humanity is busy judging her as chaos or order. Whose order are you talking about? There are patterns everywhere. If there is pattern, it's order. It's not what you can fathom. That doesn't make it chaotic. This is the Indian way. Prakriti, nature is perfect. Humans are trying to improve on Prakriti and not quite succeeding. तो पहले प्रकृति होता है, फिर संस्कृति आता है. संस्कृति आए जाए, प्रकृति हमेशा रहेगी. So these theories will come and go, rooted in Greek thought, not in universal thought. It's rooted in Greek thought. Please remember, science comes from the Renaissance. Renaissance is rediscovery of Greek knowledge. And the approach to thinking, it's not objective reality, it's subjective reality. And this is a very difficult concept to grasp. That's why they're talking about quantum theory, they're talking about Vedanta, because suddenly they are realizing nature is not following, it's following a different rules. You're contributing, your presence is shaping things happening. So when you read string theory, chaos theory, you have to start reading quantum physics and realize it's theoretical physics because it's not based on evidence. It's based on subjectivity and mathematics of the person who imagines. Einstein kept talking about it. Sutradhar is a storyteller in a book. Is the book in a story form? Yes, it is. There are many stories in the book, and the idea, the story, every story has an idea, and the ideas have been strung together in a book. Are you a die-hard defender of all Indianness? And I don't know what that means. I speak in English. And I love New York, and I love coffee in Starbucks. So no, not quite, but and it's interesting. Does it come across? Do I come across as orange-robed?
In whose reality?
In whose reality, indeed. I prefer having all the colors of the rainbow. What is the Indian philosophy around assessing high potential talent and differentiating top talent? When I say that, it's all about, does it mean you're better or worse? From a Prakriti point of view, whether you're very talented or not talented, tum pashu ho. You are an animal. Sanskriti ke point of view say, you are a golden goose if you have high talent. You are not a golden goose if you are not high talent. Nature loves you either way. Culture doesn't love you either way. Culture prefers when you lay golden eggs. So you decide whether it's good to be a high potential talent and be seen as a golden goose.
I think we have time for maybe one or two more, because I do also want, there are people who want you to sign books outside and all of that. So you want to
there are quite a few, so I'll take two more from you. Just
like
randomly select two. So.
Okay. And
vision is not forced on you. You're free to not comply and leave and follow your own vision. What are you proposing to do? No, if you sign the contract, you have to submit to the vision of the organization. But the fact is, after we sign the contract, we still complain. We shouldn't complain. Theoretically, we shouldn't. Once you sign the contract of the company, you should be very happy because it's a len-den. You're giving services, you're getting money for it. Where is frustration coming from? Because dil hai ki manta nahi. And that's the whole human condition, unfortunately. It's easy to preach control of bhav, but difficult to control. That's life, no? Why do you want to control bhav? Where is this desire to domesticate and control coming from? Allow it to flow. Saras ko behne do. Somewhere along the line we become so cynical and jaded that we don't want to believe in ranga-bhoomi. We want to believe life is rana-bhoomi because then I become either a hero, if I win, and if I lose I become a martyr. Either way I feel good about myself. तो रणभूमि अच्छा लगता है, या तो जीतो शूरवीर जीत गया या फिर जालिम मर गया. वो कितना ड्रामेटिक हिंदी. You called yourself a drama queen. It's there everywhere. Ranga-bhoomi is a frightening concept. The playground where I can be happy 24/7, 365 degrees. Nature says it's possible. It is your divine potential to be happy all the time, if you allow yourself to be. I think that's a burden we don't want to bear. Thank you.
Devdutt, thank you. Thank you for coming and making this a rang-bhoomi for us. We hope it will continue on. As a small token of our appreciation, Ankita, she's just joined us today, so she's part of this. She's joined our HR team, and our HR team would like to give you a nature's basket.
Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much.